Welcome to the Momentum Matters podcast, where we have courageous conversations with women leaders. You'll hear about their accomplishments, their experiences, their challenges, and best advice. If you are inspired by women who have overcome the barriers and gone on to do extraordinary things, you are in the right place.
Hi, everyone. I'm April Benetollo, CEO at Momentum, and welcome to Momentum Matters. I am really excited to share our guest with you today. In fact, she is going to be our keynote speaker at the upcoming leadership conference in March. So we're so excited to get this little sneak preview from Maureen Zappala. So Maureen was the youngest and first female manager of NASA's Propulsion Systems Laboratory. And she basically spent 13 years there doing jet engine research. She is now an author. She's an award-winning speaker. She's going to be our keynote speaker. And she's also the mother of 2 adult children. And I've heard her say that between doing jet engine research and raising children was way harder, like way harder. So,
oh yeah. It still is, even though they're adults.
That's right. Well, Maureen, I know like so many successful people, you often did have times in your career where you doubted yourself and had some limiting beliefs about yourself, so much so that, you can almost begin to think that people are someday going to find out that you don't really know all that they think that you know, and that you can feel like a fraud in those instances. And so the label everybody likes to put on it is imposter syndrome. And you've come up with some really great strategies for working around that so that people can be just, the best that they can be, and they can step into their competence and into their brilliance. And so I can't wait to explore this with you more today. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, April. Glad to be here.
All right. Well, I would love to start by asking you a little bit about where you grew up, Maureen, and how did you even get into engineering? I mean, that was not a real common path for young girls at your age, So how did
that? 100% right on that. But I didn't know any different, honestly. I grew up in New York. Well, I was born and raised in the heart of New York.
Can hear it there.
Yeah, I know. Way back in the way back. I grew up on Staten Island, actually. My dad, and this is going back into the 60s and 70s, because I'm older than I look. I know. Love filters, love lipstick, love makeup.
Right.
But anyway, grew up in the 60s and 70s. My dad was he was a non-degreed technical specialist / engineer for the New York Port Authority, or the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. They're the ones that built the World Trade Center. Okay. And he was one of the team that designed the underground transportation hub of the World Trade Center way back. I remember him coming home with blueprints of, let me back up a little bit. I'm the youngest of 4. I have an older brother, an older sister, and I have a twin brother, right? So there's 4 of us. I remember my dad coming home from his office in Manhattan to our home on Staten Island with these things. And I like, Dad, what's that? Big rolls of paper. He said blueprints. And he unfurled these papers on the table, and I thought they were beautiful. It was just the lines and the colors and the words and the arrows. I just was mesmerized. And I said, I looked down at the bottom right-hand corner, and it said World Trade Center. And I said, Dad, what's that? I was probably about, 8 years old at the time, maybe 7. Dad, what's that? And he said, it's 2 buildings, Maureen. They'll be twins, just like you. I remember that like it was yesterday. And I was mesmerized. And that sent me on the path to wanting to become an engineer. I knew I was good in math and science. And with his encouragement and with a natural ability to love math and science and a great 5th grade teacher who taught me long division when I couldn't figure it out, yeah, it put me on the path to be an engineer. And that's the path I took straight through high school into college and then after graduation. So it all started with the World Trade Center.
All started there. And did you go to college in New York as well?
No, sadly, both my parents passed away when I was in high school. So my twin brother and I actually were uh, literally transplanted out of New York to live with our older sister. She was married to an Air Force guy, and we ended up at an Air Force base in Dayton, Ohio. So I finished high school in Dayton, and then from there I went to University of Notre Dame in Indiana.
Wow. That must have been quite traumatic to lose both of your parents.
Yeah, it was. It was, and everybody's got their story. And it's part of mine. And I'm just very thankful. I could have gone down a really dark path. As a 17-year-old, I was an orphan. I mean, you think of orphans as those poor starving kids in another country. But we were middle class, normal people living in New York City, and both parents passed away. So it was hard, and it shaped and molded a lot of me physically, spiritually, emotionally, intellectually.
Mm.
I'm thankful that I landed on my feet and pushed through. Now, does it mean I have issues? Yes, I have daddy issues.
And we all.
And yes, I've been through therapy, but it's my story, and it made me who I am.
And I'm sure was a real pivotal time for your sister who took you in.
Yeah, my sister's 14 years older than I am. And so let's see, I was 16, she was 30. She had 3 kids of her own and a busy husband. So, so it was me, my twin brother, oh, and the German Shepherd. Here we come. So yeah, she had her hands full. Bless her heart. We're still best friends. I don't know how we survived my teenage years back then.
That says something about both of you. So when you finished school, then did you go to work for NASA right away?
I did. I graduated University of Notre Dame in 1983 with a degree in mechanical engineering and landed at NASA in Cleveland. Now, a lot of people don't even know NASA has a center in Cleveland, but they didn't. Well, a lot of people don't know is there's about 13, 14 centers, NASA centers around the country. Some of them small, some of them big. They think just, launching rockets and shuttle. NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration. There's a lot of aeronautics focused work. So the center in Cleveland at the time was called NASA Lewis, and it was primarily aeronautics. Now it's called NASA Glenn. They've expanded their mission. They do a lot of space work as well, but I worked in the aeronautics, and I was assigned as a project engineer in the propulsion systems lab, which is a jet engine research facility.
And what was it like for you walking in on day one?
And well, I'll tell that story at the keynote. So I don't want to give it away because
I'm already so curious.
I know, because it sets the stage for the entire topic. But there's no doubt I was intimidated.
Yeah.
I was excited. I was excited. First of all, in 1983, the job market for engineers was horrible. So I was thrilled I even had a job. I didn't care that it was in Cleveland, even though I knew nobody in Cleveland and had only heard bad reputation about Cleveland. And I didn't care that it was with NASA, and it was actually significantly lower pay than out in industry. I was just thrilled to have a job, but I was thrilled to work in aeronautics because when I was in college, I had some summer internships at an Air Force base, and I learned to love aeronautics. So I was excited, but I was intimidated, no doubt.
I'm sure. I'm sure. What were some of the more exciting projects that you got to work on in those 13 years?
The projects in PSL were usually pretty long-term projects, a couple of years each. So I think I probably worked on 4 or 5 total. They were all, okay, so jet engines are the engines that power a lot of fighter aircraft. We worked on fighter aircraft programs. Some of it was classified, I can't talk about. Some of it was cutting edge, new technology, a lot of fuel flow control work, which I know to some people that sounds like, oh gosh, that sounds awful. I loved it. It was great. I got to be an expert at thermal imaging, which is basically infrared night vision type work. That was really cool. Um, I worked on some helicopter engines. I worked on uh, just crazy, like, like I joke about it. This is what engineers do with too much free time. What can we think about doing today? It was like a playground of technology. It was really wonderful.
That's exciting. So you were the first and youngest female manager in the lab. What what were some of the challenges, especially given the time period? I'm not sure that all of our listeners truly appreciate what it would have been like in the late 80s to have that position. So maybe if you can help them understand sort of what the climate was like.
Mhm. Yeah, it was definitely I was in the minority. And I was used to it because in college, University of Notre Dame, um, the proportion of men to women at that time was very low. They had only been co-ed for a few years, so they were slowly building up their female population. Then pick a major that is traditionally male dominated. So few women in the general population, and then even fewer in the engineering population. I was accustomed to being the only girl. Get on the plant at NASA. NASA had hired a whole bunch of new engineers the same year they hired me. They were backfilling a lot of retirements, so they had a big chunk of us. That was fun because we had an instant group of friends. But even in that group of friends, the balance of male to female was very skewed, definitely in the minority. And then in the gritty environment of a test facility, where now it's not just me and other male engineers, but the technician crew, the electricians, the mechanics, almost exclusively men for a long time. So the challenge for me wasn't it was something I was, like I said, I'm accustomed to that. The challenge to me was not my gender, it was my experience level. I was the new girl. I was the new kid. I was the new person. So that I think had a bigger impact on me than, oh, I'm the only girl.
Yeah.
That I could handle. They were just normal people. But I just didn't feel like I knew enough. And I didn't ask enough questions. I tried to hide behind this facade of, I've got it. I'm good. Meanwhile, inside, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how do I find the answer? Didn't occur to me that maybe I should just ask somebody more senior. So, those types of things in hindsight, I wish I had known that it was okay to ask a question or say, you know what, I don't understand that. Can you explain that? There's nothing wrong with that.
To own the fact
And
that
also,
you are young, right?
yeah, I was young. Exactly. Give myself a little grace. Like, girl, there's no way you could know as much as the person who's been there for 15 years.
Right.
Give yourself grace.
Yeah, some of the things that I think we don't always think about are it's not always the fact that you're a woman. Sometimes it's a vertical challenge, so it's known that women who are less tall are perceived as, less having less authority. So it can be a physical thing, it can be an age thing, and it can be a whole confluence of all.
Oh yeah, in the workshops that I do, because you guys will hear the keynote, but I also expand the content into a workshop. There's about 21, 22 legitimate reasons to feel like an imposter.
Mhm.
And you named a couple, your gender, your height, your whatever. It could be the way you were raised. It could
Yeah.
be the culture you came from.
Your
Could be
accents.
the corporate culture you're in, the expertise field. Um, like for example, my two kids, adults. Uh, my son has a degree in astrophysics, kind of cool. And my
Mm,
daughter opted to she's a freelance photographer. She did not go to college. She
beautiful.
started and quit. It's interesting. He's in a very STEM related field, like I was, right? Science, technology, engineering, math. Oh, I think you froze. Oh,
There we go. Okay, we will start again. So you were saying that your son went into a STEM related field and your daughter did not. She opted to do freelance photography.
Right. Yeah. So in STEM, science and engineering, that's one of the worlds that imposter syndrome lives because you think, how can I keep up with what I'm supposed to know, let alone what is coming down the research and development pike. And then in the creative field, like photography or design or performing, you're only as good as your last performance, product, client, whatever. So those are legitimate reasons. Both my kids have told me, I just don't know if I'm cut out to do this. So that's a very legitimate reason. It could be a contrast. It could be anytime you don't think, act, look, sound, or dress like the people around you for whatever reason, culturally, physically, uh, um, different areas of the country have a different accent, you're going to feel out of place. And that's the birthplace of imposter syndrome. Legitimate reasons to feel like a fraud, even though you're not.
Sure. Yeah, especially coming here from the South, and a lot of our listeners are here in the Southeast. And I remember in high school, my speech teacher saying to us, "You've you need to work on curbing your Southern accent because if you plan to do anything outside of the South, people hear that accent and they immediately deduct a number of points from your
Ooh,
IQ."
ouchie, ouchie.
Yeah.
I mean, and now I don't think that's true so much anymore because the world is so global and it's so, um, well connected on the internet and with Zoom. I don't think it's that big of an issue, but oh, I heard the same message growing up in New York. You sound uncultured.
Yeah, so we all have to be aware of those things and to know that there are things we can do to modify them, but there are also things that we can do to say what, the labels that somebody's putting on me because of those things are not who I am. They don't
Mhm.
define me, right?
And I think sometimes we think for other people. We just assume they think something about us, right? Oh, that I can't, she's going to think I'm pushy, so I won't do that. Well, why do you think that? Do you and think it in reverse? If she did that, would you think she was pushy? Well, no. Then why then do you think she would think you're pushy? So we think for other people. Bad habit.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what were some of the things I guess that you learned along the way, Maureen? And then how did you come to put all of those into a kind of framework that you could even feel the confidence to write about and to go on a public speaking circuit to speak out about?
Yeah, I've been a speaker for longer than I've been speaking about imposter syndrome. I started out speaking about just generic leadership topics. And I found pretty quickly that leadership is such a broad topic. I was very vanilla as a speaker, and I wanted to find something else that really caught the attention of audiences and meeting planners and corporations. I wanted to make a difference. And I read a book called, let's see, do I have it here handy? Oh, I do. It's right here, actually. I read a book called The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women. It's actually been retitled Successful Women and Men, because men struggle with it too, by Valerie Young. The book changed my life. It talks about imposter syndrome, which I didn't know had a name, but I experienced it at NASA. That whole, I don't think I fit in and I feel like a fraud. So I thought this is a topic that people need to know more about. And so I did a deep dive into it. I studied it and researched it and uh, talked about it with everybody everywhere. And it became part of my identity. And the way I created the content that I'll be presenting in the keynote this coming spring is that I looked at what I learned through all the other research that other people have done. Valerie was just one of the people that did great research. And then I reflected on my own experiences and I kind of deconstructed what did I learn while I was an engineer and what do I wish that I could have learned differently? And so I structured a series of strategies and from there kind of created all of this content. And boy, I'm telling you, April, when I deliver this content, and I know your group is going to see the same thing, light bulbs are going off all over the place. It's magical for me and for the audience member. This stuff is game changing. It really is.
This,
It works on me. And now, does it mean that imposter syndrome goes away completely and totally? No. But in the moment, you have the tools to get yourself through it so that you can kind of mitigate it and just push on with loving your life.
that's right. Isn't it why we do the work we do? To
Yes.
have those moments,
100%. Yep.
seeing just the light bulb go off. And then, what's beautiful about the momentum experience is we have built a whole community. And so we often get the chance to see someone's light bulb go off and then see where that light takes them,
Mm-hmm.
to follow them through their next few evolutions or their next few steps. I'm sure you've received letters that were, your talk changed my life. Because of your talk, I did XYZ, and now I've got this job, or now I've started my own business, or now I was able to secure the round of funding that I needed. Those kinds of things just make it all so worthwhile.
Yeah, you're right. It does. And what I've seen too, imposter syndrome, when you conquer it or when you address it and make peace with your imposter, because like I said, it doesn't always go away. You just learn to kind of, smack it down a little bit, a lot, repeatedly. It affects people on a very personal level, like what you just said. Because of this, I was able to get this, do this, become this, right? That's great. But on a corporate level, on an organizational level, leaders don't really understand how much imposter syndrome is holding back their best and brightest people collectively. And it could affect bottom line. It could affect customer satisfaction. It could affect manufacturing safety. Could affect corporate or market share. There's so many things on a grander, bigger, global scale in the corporation that it affects. So leaders, even if they think they don't struggle with imposter syndrome, chances are the people they manage, lead, supervise, direct, coach, parent, babysit do. So it helps them to understand what imposter syndrome is, how to overcome it, and where they can go once they get past it.
And what, as you mentioned before, what the recent research shows is that a lot more men than we thought also suffer from imposter syndrome. They may label it differently, they may act it out differently, but it's really rooted in the same thing, is it not?
Yes, it is. You're right. It affects us both. We process it differently. Women tend to be more willing to talk about it. Men want to more, how can I say it in a way that doesn't throw men under the bus? Because they don't deserve to be thrown under the bus. The men are great. I love men. But men do tend to lean more back on their past accomplishments. And I see that all the time. When I give a keynote, women talk to me about the strategies that I've presented. Men come up and talk to me about their experience with rockets and jet propulsion and NASA. And then at the end, they'll say, oh yeah, what you said here really helped. I'm glad you said that. So it's a different way of processing it.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of the most, I guess, maybe foundational considerations, or if someone is just getting started with confronting their imposter syndrome, do you have any, your top 3 questions they should ask themselves or actions that they can take?
I don't know if I have questions I could add. They could add. Well, I suppose I could, but as you see, I talk a lot. Let me see if I can summarize it. Number one, these are not questions I would have for them, but rather words of wisdom and encouragement. How's that? Great. Number one, there's nothing wrong with you. It is not a character flaw that you feel this. Like I said, there's legitimate reasons. So breathe. You're normal. It's pervasive. It affects a lot of people. Number two is that it is a thought process distortion that you can undistort. And I'll talk about that in the keynotes. It's simple but not easy, and it requires constant daily focus, discipline, and intention, which makes it not easy. And then the third part is there's a narrative out there in the internet sphere that says imposter syndrome is your superpower or that it is your friend. And I reject both of those. It is not a superpower. It's not a reason to become, or it's not a contribution to your success. It is a byproduct of it, two different things. Uh, and to say that you cannot be successful unless you feel a little self-doubt, who wants to live with that kind of
I'm
stress,
buying it.
really? So, they may go hand in hand, but one does not lead the other. So they can be handled separately. But I think the
Kind of
biggest
like that
thing is,
philosophy of, you want to, oh, you know, think about worst case scenario because it helps you prepare for the worst, and then you'll be
yeah,
better for anything that, that comes. Yes.
yeah,
And, what does that do to your psyche at the same time? So there's
yeah.
there's those things.
Yeah, no, that's 100% right. Because that's a good example. What's the worst? I mean, it's a good question to ask. What's the worst that could happen?
Mhm.
Because sometimes we do catastrophize some crazy, crazy, bizarre endings, and we think, oh, if that's going to happen, I'm not even going to start.
Yeah.
But when you say, well, what's the worst that could happen? Really, you have to challenge yourself. Is that really, really, what's the probability that will happen? And what would happen if you didn't go in that
If
direction?
this
What's
meeting
worse?
doesn't go well, you're not going to end up living under a bridge.
Right, right,
But our
right.
minds can very quickly go there. Like,
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
and the other thing, and we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I wanted to touch on the fact that not only are you not alone if you have imposter syndrome, but some of the most powerful women on earth have publicly spoken. I'm thinking
Yeah.
about Michelle Obama,
hmm
Serena Williams, Emma
hmm
Watson,
hmm
Maya Angelou. I mean,
Yep.
women that I admire so much, and they
Mhm.
have spoken publicly about feeling like they were a fraud, that they would walk into a room and felt they didn't belong, they didn't have a right to be there. So it is pretty ubiquitous. It's kind of all over the place.
It really is. And those particular people, we can Google and find many of those. And a lot of them tend to be celebrities, a lot of performing art folks, creative people, uh, performance-based industries like athletes. And sometimes it's hard to relate to them because you're like, well, they're at the top of their game. They're just saying it to, just to say it. Well, no, they're saying it because they really do experience it.
Yeah.
And it hits everybody in every level of an organization, whether you are an emerging, fresh out of college like I was, an emerging manager or a leader, C-level executive, an entrepreneur, which I know a lot of your folks are entrepreneurs, whether you are in the education and especially higher education market, a professor, a research assistant in the medical community,
Mhm.
the science community, a community where you need to be certified or degreed like CPAs or financial planners. Anytime where you feel like there's going to be some kind of assessment of your skills against some standard or against some opinion, you're going to feel like a fake.
Wow. Well, Maureen, I really want to say thank you. We appreciate you so much for making the time to speak with us ahead of coming and speaking at the conference. We're super excited to welcome you to the Magic City and show you around Birmingham and let you meet
I
our
can't wait. I don't think I've ever been. I've never been to Birmingham. I'm really excited about it.
It's going to be fantastic. And I know your keynote is going to be riveting. And I know that you're going to share lots of great takeaways. So very much looking forward to that. I'm going to wrap it up with this, Maureen. We really are looking forward to having you at the conference. And until then, stay warm, stay safe, have just an awesome end to your year. And as we start planning for the new year, we are excited that you're going to be part of ours.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to come to Birmingham.
We'll see you soon.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to Momentum Matters. We invite you to subscribe to our podcast as we share more important conversations with women leaders. We would love for you to rate our show and share with others in your life. This episode of Momentum Matters was produced by Social U and brought to you by America's Thrift Stores, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Alabama, Protective Life, and Regions Bank. A full list of corporate partners can be found at momentumleaders.org. We also want to thank the individual donors, Momentum members, and volunteers for their commitment to our mission.